Mr. Sidner, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Perfectly. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to provide is true and accurate? It looks like we have a little bit of a lag there. That oath's kind of important, so we'll just redo that.
Just so you know, we are having a windstorm right now, so it's causing problems. I apologize.
We'll get through it. Don't worry. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Jorde?
Please state your name.
Eric Lewis Sidner.
And Mr. Sidner, you are here on behalf of the Dolores Sidner Family Trust, which owns 3 parcels that are targeted by the proposed Summit Hazardous Pipeline in Woodbury County. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And as a part of this process, there was pre-filed testimony prepared, which are certain questions, answers, as well as attachments that have been provided in support of the Family Trust opposition to this matter. Do you have any material changes that you think need to be made at this time?
There's a couple. First one is regarding if we had sent over an alternate map to Summit, and we did. On the testimony, it says no. We sent it back in November of 21. And she just forgot about it, or it was not informed.
Okay. Any other correction that's necessary?
No, the other one's minor, but the purchase of the property was back in 1936, not 38, 87 years ago.
Thank you. And then any updates that are necessary for events that have occurred since approximately the end of July of this year?
No.
Thank you. With that, we will offer exhibits 417 and 418.
Are there objections? Okay, seeing no objections, the board will give the way to.
Thank you. And sir, at this time, some other folks might have questions for you. Okay?
Can I say one thing, since my mom's not able to be present? Or
you'll be able to, during questioning, address that, and then I'll have a chance at the end to sum up with you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Sir, my name is Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. In your prepared testimony, you said that if the pipeline is installed on your land, that the value could plummet, totally worthless. How do you know that? What makes you think that?
Well, hazardous material on a piece of property would be a big red flag if you're to buy real estate. Currently, this area of the property here is zone general industrial. We have neighbors who just recently sold their property, not for agriculture use, for a substantial amount higher than what you get for ag land. I can't imagine someone in that, industrial or even city related would want to buy property where you can't even get liability insurance. And you have restricted uses. Seems like it would be a no-brainer.
So you're saying that in the area surrounding your property, there has been some industrial development?
The actual recent purchase, my understanding, just east of our property, northeast, that was recently sold for other use than agricultural.
Can we pan out on the KMZ and see if we can see that area? Do you see it?
Yeah, so immediately, I would say, let's go the left, right. Well, east, northeast, you'll see a circular shape of the intersection of the upper corner of our red property, just above 235th Street. Yeah, right there. So the property that surrounds that oval, the circular shape, that, is my understanding, was recently sold. Right there. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what industry bought it?
My understanding was the city, Sergeant Bluff, for future development.
I see. Is that in the Sergeant Bluff city limits then?
I'm not aware one way or the other.
Okay.
I think they're going to do an annexation, if I recall correctly.
Would you anticipate that your property might someday be annexed to Sergeant Bluff or some other city?
It's possible. Obviously, the zoning is not, let's say, agricultural.
So your property right now is not zoned agricultural?
What's happening here will limit our options as to what can be done with the property. Sorry, my internet just cut for a second.
Is your property a cropland now?
Yes, it's currently being farmed.
Okay.
At least it's leased out.
It looks like just to the east edge of your property, there are some buildings. What are those?
I am not exactly sure. I know directly north of it, there's some houses. But I'm not sure of the use there, just immediately east.
Okay. And just right north of the road, which is the north edge of your property, just right across the north side of that road, there are some houses?
That is correct. There's 3.
And those look like they'd be very close to the pipeline route?
Yes.
Did you ever talk with any Summit land agents or representatives about an alternative route?
Yeah, early on, had conversation several times before we had gone a law group involved. It was Michael Scott. He asked us to provide a suggested alternate route. And, I did, but it was on the caveat that we didn't want the pipeline, period. But as far as I know, this obviously this is not the route we would have suggested. We wanted to go skirt the edges, maybe along the road, go along the roadside, not diagonally through the property.
Is there a way that you think they could have skirted most of your property rather than going diagonally through it?
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. Is there a way that you think Summit could have more or less skirted your property instead of going diagonally through the middle of it?
Yeah, they could just continued on along the eastward, but I would assume, in the actual easement of the roadway would be great, and then head north along the border on the east side of our property.
In your written testimony, you say that this is good farmland, and you worry that Summit will say one thing and do another. What makes you think that your farmland would be impacted by Summit saying one thing and doing another?
We're suspicious as to how it will be handled. The agreement that was sent out had a lot of broad, vague terms on timelines. The pipe can be moved wherever they want it. it was really, we just don't have a good feeling about them. When they, and you don't even know who they're going to sell the property to if they don't keep the pipeline themselves. It's open. I don't know, it's couldn't put my finger on exactly why. It's just more of a, just based on what we've seen and read. It's, don't have a solid feeling as far as how this would go. I don't think there would be anything to our advantage.
Well, what discussions have you had with the Summit reps?
Again, this was a while back. It was really more about the route. We told them we didn't want it there. Didn't want them on the property. Didn't want them to survey it. And I noticed in one of our exhibits, going through it, there's a survey stamp on the it's attachment 1. We never gave permission to survey the land, so there's another reason why we don't trust these guys.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Whippel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Sidner, I think you cut out right at the point where Mr. Taylor was asking you about the zoning. Could you just restate what these 3 parcels are zoned as?
General industry.
All 3 of them?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And how far away is the city of Sergeant Bluff?
Couldn't say exactly. I'm guessing around 4 miles. That's where the nearest one of the service and the fire department is. Around 4 miles. At least that's in the city. I don't know where the outskirts are exactly.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Kaufman?
Hi, I'm Julie Kaufman, a landowner, and I had a question about about whether or not you think it's okay for our government officials to be do you think, I'll put it this way, do you think that the government is pushing this project since according to Summit witness Brigham McCown, the United States public policy is to accelerate, not delay, carbon capture projects. So, do you think that this policy position should take precedence over your constitutional rights, your personal safety, and your financial well-being?
Oh, no. The property's been owned in our family over 87 years. It's my understanding, we have property rights, and a private company coming in, basically taking our rights, holding property forever. Reimbursement's there's no fair reimbursement. The liability is an issue. We can't get insurance. We're subject to, if something goes wrong, all they have to do is say we or our tenant did something that damaged the pipes. Now we have to defend it. We don't have money to defend it. It's basically a taking, and they're forcing something onto us. There's no insurance. We're in a situation where you're kind of there's nothing you can do about it. And the government endorsing it would be unfortunate if that's truly the case. And I hope that's not the case.
So then, do I understand correctly that you think that this government policy that the Summit says that we have violates our constitutional rights? Is that your testimony?
I believe it does. It's, like I said, it's personal property, private property, and it's not for a public use. It's not a government body that's doing this. This is a private company coming in, taking our land. My mom, 83 years old, both her sisters passed away recently, her only sisters. This has been traumatic for her. They're coming and taking her property. She grew up across the street in one of those houses we just talked about. then that's why I'm talking. She's not. Very traumatic for her.
I understand. I think
I completely think it's wrong, and I think it goes against the Constitution.
Do you believe it also do you believe it violates your personal safety or your family's personal safety? Endangers your family's personal safety? Or could?
Well, I mean, just the stress it's causing my mom, it's causing problems there. But then also our tenant who's following. Something happens, he get hurt, or worse, the neighbors who are right across the street. I think it was in Missouri where we had the pipeline rupture. The pollutants traveled over a mile. It's undetectable. Vehicles can't operate in it because there's no oxygen. Service comes, how does an emergency service vehicle get in there? Just the engine stops running, needs oxygen. It's no one can hold their breath more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It'd take a while for people to get there to try and help them out, and hopefully have the right gear. So, no, this is definitely a safety hazard.
Given that the soil and the land is Iowa's main resource, our most of our state's economy is dependent upon agriculture. Do you think that this is going to be a good thing for our state's economy, if it's allowed?
Well, I don't see how it would help. I mean, in the matter of what they're, it's the 45 acute tax program expires in 12 years. Will they keep doing this pipeline? I don't know. They may abandon it. So what's the gain there? And they use our tax money to do it. I can't imagine it would be beneficial.
So you have a concern that they're not only using our tax money to push it through, but then they get to keep it forever. You won't get it back, even if you won't get control of this land back, even if they decide not to do the pipeline or abandon the pipeline.
Yes, it's in the document received from Summit. It's theirs. It doesn't revert back. My understanding, Dakota County, across the river, across Missouri, where the pipeline's supposed to come or go from, they don't have permission yet to go through there. They apparently have to have 100% sign off by the affected landowners. The Army Corps of Engineers hasn't given them the go ahead to go underneath the Missouri. They're going to come in and take our property, which is right near the Missouri. If they're not allowed to go through there, now they have to find a different route.
Does it make any sense to you that they should be trying to even forge ahead with this pipeline since they don't have a
abandoned, before they even put it in?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, cut out there.
I got I didn't hear the end of your thing, but I was going to ask you, I thought you were stopping, but you were still talking, because there was
the internet connection kind of is, we're having an issue with wind, so.
Okay. I guess I wanted to know, do you think does it make sense to you that they are forging ahead with this project when the idea is to sequester carbon, a carbon capture and sequestration plan, but they have no place to sequester it because eminent domain they don't, as far as I know, have a site to sequester it, but yet they want to, it's like a pipeline to nowhere. Is that your understanding?
Well, it's kind of cart before the horse, or vice versa. But no, what I was concerned about is Dakota County across the river in Nebraska. They don't even have permission to go through there yet, or even under the river. So they're going to try and do eminent domain, take our property when they don't even have. They can't even go down the road here. They don't even, heading east. So what's the point? They're going to take something and have it forever, and then who knows who will end up with it. To no end, really.
So the project in general makes little sense to you, is that what you're saying? If any?
No, it doesn't make sense, no. Unless there's some ulterior motives.
Do you think that the why do you think that the government does not seem to be supporting landowners in our private property rights? Is that what you think? Is that
Action, state your
I,
objection.
I said it wrong. Excuse me. Do you think that the government is supporting landowners' private property rights?
Not at this time, no.
Do you think they have a constitutional responsibility to support our private property rights?
Yes, I do.
Can you think of any reason that our governor is not standing up for our private property rights?
No. I'm not sure of her affiliations or who's supporting her, but I would think being a governor in Iowa, which is, like you said earlier, an agricultural state, doesn't make any sense, especially since they're trying to phase out of the ethanol, which then this would be kind of a moot point.
Does it make sense to you that although almost 80% reportedly of Iowans oppose eminent domain for private gain, that the government seems to be going ahead with these meetings? Well, I mean, why are they even considered? Does it make sense that they're considering eminent domain when so many Iowans oppose eminent domain for private gain?
It doesn't make sense. They're obviously not worried about being accountable to the people.
Thank you. No other questions.
Ms. Grunhagen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Mr. Sidner.
Look,
You mentioned that you have leased these properties out.
yes.
Did you review the Exhibit H's that were mailed to you back in July?
Yes. That's under attachment 1, pre-trial.
And did
That's one.
those list your farm tenant correctly?
As far as I can tell, yes.
One of the parcels doesn't list a farm tenant. Do you have the same tenant for all 3 parcels?
It should be, yes. Leonard Jorgensen.
Okay. So you also have a farm tenant then on the parcel that's labeled WO-040.
My understanding it's leased, all 3 parcels are leased.
Okay. And are you an Iowan, or do you live in Iowa?
No, I'm California.
Okay. So you live.
My mom is in California as well, and she has a lot of health issues. That's why she couldn't travel out.
Yeah, it's a long way to travel. And so you live there and help her out, I assume.
Yes, my sister's definitely a big part of that.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Ms. Hike.
Hello, Mr. Snyder. I'm Chris Hike. I'm a landowner as well. I seen your pre-trial testimony. You mentioned you had both Summit and Navigator going through the property. Would you update it and remove Navigator, since my understanding that's no longer viable?
Yeah, I understand they are no longer pursuing it, but we did at once.
Has it been a burden? I'm thinking with 2 pipeline companies.
I have both of them, and the routes were very similar to the pipeline. I'm sorry, you broke up.
I say, has it been a burden with having both pipeline companies sought after your land? That's been difficult for your mom?
It's been very traumatic for her, very emotional. Again, that's part of the reason she's not talking. This is where she grew up, where she was raised, some of her best memories. And then and then again, her sisters who were also had properties in this area they owned, but they just recently passed away. So she's kind of the steward of this, and it's really difficult for her to see what's going on here, what's being allowed. And this is, since she's on a fixed income, retired dental hygienist, the release is a big part of her income and survival. So this is a big issue.
So did the land agents come to California?
We've had people try to deliver letters, but I don't know if they're protected land agents that said that they were working, but I'm not aware of them coming out there.
Were you provided any paperwork discussing any warnings or risks or safety information about the pipeline being put on your property?
Not that I recall from them, no.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Colas?
Good morning, Mr. Sidner. I'm Jean Colas. I'm also a landowner. I have some questions regarding the proposed pipeline route. On the upper northeast corner, it appears that they come down and they are away from the road. Is there any topographical reason for them going down?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't been out there in a while, but my recollection is it's fairly flat. There's not a lot of, it's not hilly. I'm not sure as to why they took that route, maybe to get a little further from those homes.
Are you aware of any easements existing on the property currently?
No, other than I think there's the standard right-of-way easement on the roads.
There's no electrical or water along the roadway or anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Can you please, the board, can they please measure the distance for those three homes from the proposed pipeline, please? I can't see it from back here. Can somebody?
It's hard for me to see from here.
342 feet.
The first one is 340 feet, 3 feet. What about the next one?
$673.
Have you had any contact with those neighbors about the concern of the pipeline, the proposed pipeline being put on your property?
I have not.
You indicated your tenant is not happy about this. Is he concerned about, during the 2 years of proposed construction, his accessibility being cut off by the pipeline and how he will have to turn his equipment or cultivate that land?
Well, yeah. You look at the bottom, what I would call it the southwest section. You can see the line draws all the way across. He'd have to cross other properties to get to farm that corner. So you have to get permission if you can even do that. The other issue is, just the shape of it. You can't farm it. You have that askew, so you definitely lose soil, areas where you can plant crops. Then you run the risk of, once that's in place, we are worried about just the liability issue again. The way is that we understand it, since we can't get liability insurance, Summit would pay for the pipe if it got, if it was damaged other than the pipe itself, if we didn't or our tenant didn't damage it. The problem is they could say that we were liable or it was our fault. Now we have to prove that we didn't damage it. So we may have to avoid those.
So post-construction, does he have concern about driving heavy equipment?
The liability side of it. Now we have to prove it. Heavy equipment, yeah, exactly. I think I don't know if it cut out, I can't remember, but yeah, that's our concern is since we can't get liability insurance, is exposure. It would bankrupt her. She, like I said, she's on a fixed income, and she depends on this property for income. So we are concerned about what this is going to do. The easements obviously are a problem during the construction, but then afterwards as well. Besides the soil damage, we're just worried about the liability. It's a big thing. We're being forced to something onto us that we have no control over, but we're liable for it. Ridiculous.
Do you have tile installed across your farmland?
No.
Okay. Are you concerned about because your mother depends on this income, about the compaction and the lack of yield post-construction of the pipeline?
Yeah. Quite frankly, the tenant, since he won't be able to farm the land as normal, he's going to want, we have an agreement as far as the payments for the lease. That's going to have to reduce, understandably so, because he can farm less of it, or after the fact, the yield will drop. So this is going to impact it, and the money that they want to front up for 3 years, that doesn't go to my mom. That's going to go to the farmer, the tenant. We get none of, there's no gain on our end at all, and we, except for risk and loss of money because of, value of the property and the issue, it's less farmable.
So you're shouldering the damage to your land, the inconvenience of the construction of the land, loss of income, and risk to your personal safety, correct?
Yeah, obviously, California, I'm worried about our tenant, the people that live nearby. And quite frankly, the stress is causing my mom, my sister, they're really having issues with this emotionally, besides this, what we're talking about. So, this is all around. This is it's just a unfortunate thing that they're trying to do.
Are you concerned that if this goes through eminent domain, that it gives Summit access to the pipeline? Anyway, they can cross they can cross from the road to the pipeline for quicker access if necessary.
My understanding is they'll need access to it. We don't know where it'll be, and it has to be clear and maintained. It's open-ended. That they have a map showing the pipeline, as indicated here in attachment 1, but they don't show the access location. I assume it's going to be multiple locations, and it could be anywhere. So
in order to get to the pipeline, they would be accessing your cultivated land that they have not paid for and can damage the crops.
Of course, yeah. And my understanding is they can access it anytime they want.
24/7, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
No further questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Board Member Burns.
Yeah, Sidner or Sidner? I apologize.
Sidner.
Sidner. So earlier in this hearing, I had a conversation with a parcel owner next to you. I think Mr. Orking, because my notes are correct. I don't know if you
That's
are aware of him at all or not, or.
My mom has spoken with him. I have not, but yes, I'm aware of him.
Okay. So during that conversation I had with him back in the day, he had also expressed an interest in turning this or his parcels into potentially someday a development site for industrial or business, if you will. One of my questions for him, and I'm just curious, I'm going to ask you the same thing, because it seems like you have the same concept as what he did, that maybe this is a potential site someday, and you have worries that the pipeline would maybe hinder that development. Would it change your perception on that development at all if you work with the pipeline and were able to secure like an injection site or an offtake on that pipeline? Because, and the reason I ask that is we see a lot of companies worried about their carbon index score, and maybe potentially it could be attractive to a business if there was an injection site or an offtake on that pipeline in that location. Would that change, if you could have that conversation at all with the company, would that change your view on the pipeline at all or not?
I think we got cut off.
Oh, my apologies.
I lost there. I think we got cut off here. No, it's not your fault. The win here. I missed part of that, if you can hear me, but potential stuff, potential this.
So
I know for a fact that this is going to damage the property. We know it's going to make the value drop substantially, and to say potentially this or that, that I just can't. I just don't know how that's going to. Potential is down the road, if it could even occur at all, as being something that's viable. But I guarantee you that someone's seeing pipes across their property, wanting to buy it to develop it. You can't build on it. You can't plant on it. You have to leave it clear. I can't imagine that this is a good thing at all.
And maybe the part that I had said got cut off is that if there were to be an injection site on the pipeline on your property or an offtake there, so that a company could put in or inject carbon, or if there's a company utilizing carbon to make a product, would that potentially change your view on the pipeline on your property?
You still have the hazard. You got the pollutant there, storing it there, where now you still are exposing others to dangerous conditions. So no.
Okay. Nope. That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jorde, for redirect.
Yes, thank you. You're aware, sir, aren't you, that you cannot build, you'd be prevented, or anyone in the future would be prevented from building over the top of or within close proximity to the easement and the pipeline. Do you know that?
Yes.
All right. So even if years and years from now, you understand on these diagonals, it drastically takes out any economic development or reduces the potential based on the diagonal nature of dissecting these fields. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I don't know how you would segment this out and make it worthwhile, and let alone, why would you want to build right next to a hazardous pipeline?
Now, you had mentioned that they surveyed the land against your will. Do you think they were taking advantage of the fact that your mother is an out-of-state owner and you're there with her out of state as well?
I'm sure it crossed their mind. We've had multiple conversations with them early on before we signed up with your office. They knew our situation, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Now, you understand there's no ethanol plant or industrial facility at all in the Summit current proposal that is located in Woodbury County that is slated to participate at all in this proposed project. Are you aware of that?
That was my understanding.
And considering that the only reason the pipeline is even in Woodbury County and on the outskirts of Sioux Falls is to get to Nebraska, do you think it's publicly convenient or necessary for all of the landowners in Woodbury County and the city, Sioux City and surrounding growing areas to have a hazardous pipeline so that 3 ethanol plants in Nebraska could push the product through there.
Not all.
So would you agree that in any event, regardless of what might be approved or disapproved, that certainly the entire Woodbury County route should be denied, and then obviously all eminent domain denied in Woodbury County, since that would just be a pass-through from another state that has nothing to do with Iowa, correct?
Correct.
Now, you mentioned the trauma to your mom, and has it affected, you've seen effects in her mental and physical health because of what Summit's been doing, disobeying her wishes as to surveys, failing to go to court to get appropriate injunctions, and otherwise how they've been treating her throughout this process?
Yeah, this whole process has been very difficult. She's her sleep. She's not sleeping well. It's really been harmful for her. The physical part, but also the emotional part. Like I said, her sister just recently passed away, both of them, and they were part of the owners of the property here and adjacent. She grew up across the street from the top of the property. I mean, it hits her hard. It's really hard.
Thank you, sir. I don't have anything further. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Sidner. You are dismissed.
Can I read the one item I wanted to talk to you about? My mom had asked me to say.
I'd forgotten that part about your mom. I thought you had covered it with Mr. Taylor.
This will take a second if that's all right.
We've already dismissed the witness.
Well, I'd ask permission to recall him for this last statement that he wants to make for his mother.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Read the statement. Just to be clear, Mr. Sidner, it's not that we don't want to hear your statement or hear from your mother. It's that we do have rules, orders, and procedures that just don't get followed with much frequency. So that said, please feel free to read the statement.
This will be real brief. This is something she sent me, but so this is not about clean air and water. This is about the 45Q federal tax credits, billions of dollars for the rich and powerful. This is an attack on the values of America and the supremacy of property rights, excuse me. These property rights made America strong, giving each citizen the right to own property and not have it taken away for the wrong reasons. The supremacy of property rights made America strong with the government, for the people, by the people. She pleads that don't take my father's land away. My dad worked in snowstorms, hot, humid Iowa summers, sold watermelons out of the back of his truck to help pay for his farm, support his family. Say no to this land grab. Iowa Utility Board, say no to the destruction of America's foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sidner. Okay, Mr. Jorde, your next witness, and we will break roughly at noon, but hopefully we can get past the wrap and
get one started. Sure. In that case, let's call Alan back. We're going to switch him since he's in person. Alan, you're here. Yep.